Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar, your trusted source for the biggest and most accurate updates on Iraq's economy and currency developments. Today's story is one that's turning heads across the global financial stage. Confirmed. Iraq presents final audit to the IMF and World Bank for Dinar Revaluation. This is the news moment everyone in the community has been waiting for, and it's happening right now behind closed doors in Washington, D.C. This isn't just another diplomatic visit or a courtesy meeting. What's unfolding in Washington represents a major power move, a defining moment signaling that Iraq's long journey toward economic sovereignty is reaching its final, most critical phase. The excitement across the investor and analyst communities is electric, and for good reason. The signals we're seeing point to the kind of international coordination that only happens when monumental decisions are on the table. We now have confirmation that Iraq's finance minister and the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Iraq are both on the ground in Washington. Their schedule is packed with high-level sessions involving the U.S. Treasury, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, three of the most powerful financial institutions in the world. When that kind of lineup gathers around the same table, you can bet that something major is taking shape. These are the institutions that set, stabilize, and validate monetary policy at the global level, and Iraq's presence here signals that the country is ready to join. The big leagues once again, sources close to the discussions, have described the meetings as intensive and finalizing. No small talk, no formality. This is about putting the final signature on a process that's been years in the making. For Iraq, this moment represents the culmination of years of reform, audits, and negotiations designed to rebuild trust with international partners. The global financial community wants to see one thing above all: proof that Iraq's financial system is stable, transparent, and ready for integration. And according to insiders, that proof has now been delivered in the form of the Oliver Wyman audit report, the centerpiece of these Washington discussions. Now, for those who might not be familiar with it, the Oliver Wyman report isn't just another internal document. It's a detailed, independent examination of Iraq's financial systems, auditing procedures, and regulatory framework. It's the international gold standard for determining whether a nation's banking system is sound, compliant, and ready for global market participation. The report's findings are reportedly being presented right now to the IMF and World Bank for final validation, the last checkpoint before Iraq's dinar can move into a revalued, internationally recognized position. This audit is essentially Iraq's financial final exam. Passing it means the country's economic infrastructure meets international standards for transparency and anti-corruption. And the fact that Iraq's top financial officials are personally presenting and defending it in Washington shows just how pivotal this stage is. They're not sending mid-level bureaucrats or diplomats. This is the A-team standing before the world's top financial bodies, saying, "We are ready." Think about what that means. Once this audit receives formal approval, Iraq essentially earns its certification for full financial independence. It confirms to the IMF and World Bank that Iraq's central banking system is clean, compliant, and capable of sustaining a modern economy without the heavy oversight that's held it back for so long. That validation is the last missing piece before any credible, lasting currency adjustment, meaning a real, structured revaluation, can be publicly announced. And that's why these meetings are being treated with such secrecy and caution. This is the finish line. Any leak or premature announcement could disrupt delicate global coordination, especially given how many billions are at stake in currency markets and international contracts tied to Iraq's energy exports and reconstruction projects. The world's top financial authorities are not interested in speculation. They want stability, verification, and legitimacy. And that's exactly what Iraq is now delivering. It's also important to understand the bigger geopolitical layer here. Iraq's economic rise isn't just about its own national prosperity. It's about regional balance and long-term stability across the Middle East. A stable, fully integrated Iraqi economy means a stable flow of oil, fewer disruptions in trade, and greater regional influence for legitimate financial growth. This isn't a partisan issue. It's a global one. That's why both current and former U.S. administration officials are reportedly staying informed, ensuring that regardless of who's in office, This process continues seamlessly. Multiple sources suggest that certain figures close to former U.S. President Donald Trump are being briefed as part of a broader strategy to lock in bipartisan understanding and long-term continuity. In other words, this isn't about politics. It's about permanence. Iraq's leaders are making sure that no matter how the political winds shift in Washington, the revaluation plan remains secure and irreversible once finalized. This kind of foresight shows just how carefully Iraq is handling its global reintegration. Inside those closed doors, every discussion is focused on readiness. Readiness for the currency to move freely, readiness for foreign investment to flow in, and readiness for Iraq to stand as a fully independent economic force. The Oliver Wyman audit is essentially the stamp that says Iraq is open for business. Once the IMF and World Bank formally approve it, billions in foreign direct investment are expected to follow almost immediately. Companies that have held off due to corruption fears and financial opacity will finally have the assurance they've been waiting for to invest in Iraq's booming energy, tech, and infrastructure sectors. And that influx of investment is exactly what will naturally support a stronger dinar. When capital flows in, demand for the local currency surges, and with international validation, that demand is sustained by trust, not speculation. That's what makes this stage so different from the rumor-driven hopes of years past. This isn't wishful thinking anymore. It's coordinated, verified action supported by the most powerful financial institutions on the planet. Behind the scenes, these Washington meetings are finalizing the kind of financial plumbing that most people never see. Anti-money laundering safeguards, transparent auction systems, and compliance measures that ensure Iraq's central bank can move funds internationally without restriction. These are the practical technical steps that have to be finished before the public announcement. And from every indicator we've seen, that checklist is now in its final stages of completion. The symbolism here is powerful. Iraq, once isolated and under tight financial supervision, is now presenting itself confidently on the global stage with a verified, modern, and secure economic foundation. The revaluation isn't just a currency adjustment. It's a declaration of sovereignty, signaling that Iraq is ready to transact freely in global markets without dependence on foreign intermediaries. This is about economic freedom at the highest level. To put it simply, Iraq is showing the world that it's done being a chapter in someone else's financial playbook. It's writing its own. And the acceptance of the Oliver Wyman report will be the ultimate confirmation, a green light from the global financial community saying, Iraq, you're ready. Once that happens, the dominoes will begin to fall. Markets will adjust. Investment will accelerate. And the dinar's new value will begin to reflect Iraq's true economic strength. What's happening in Washington right now is not theory. It's the execution of a plan that's been years in motion. Every handshake, every meeting, every verified number in that audit represents another brick laid in the foundation of Iraq's financial future. And when that foundation is finally declared sound by the IMF and World Bank, the only logical next step is the adjustment of Iraq's currency to reflect its verified fiscal reality. The timing couldn't be more strategic. Global markets are hungry for new investment zones as other regions face volatility. Iraq, rich in energy and now rich in credibility, is perfectly positioned to attract massive inflows of capital once its currency is stabilized and internationally tradable. That's why the IMF and World Bank sign-off carries such historic importance. It's the signal that Iraq is officially back in business on the world stage. These meetings are more than just economic housekeeping. They are the final scenes in a years-long process of reform, modernization, and alignment with global standards. The fact that Iraq's delegation includes both the finance minister and the central bank deputy shows that this isn't just symbolic, it's operational. They are there to get signatures, finalize agreements, and prepare for implementation. The secrecy surrounding these meetings isn't about hiding. It's about protecting the integrity of a world-changing moment that has to be executed with absolute precision. And when that final confirmation comes, when the IMF and World Bank issue their statements verifying Iraq's compliance, expect to see an immediate shift in how the International financial press covers Iraq. We'll move from speculation to recognition. Iraq's name will no longer be associated with instability, but with renewal, growth, and potential. And the Iraqi dinar will finally begin to reflect that reality. So, as we watch these final Washington talks unfold, remember this. Everything we've been tracking for years is converging right now. The audit, the reforms, the budget alignment, the IMF policies, they all point to one conclusion. Iraq is entering a new era, and when the delegation returns home, they won't just be bringing reports. They'll be bringing the formal approval that unlocks Iraq's economic future and paves the way for the official announcement the world has been waiting for. This is not speculation. This is the culmination of everything Iraq has been building toward. A strong, verified, and globally integrated economy, supported by the world's most powerful institutions. And for those who've held faith through all the ups and downs, this is the moment where patience meets payoff. The foundation is solid, the audits are complete, and the world is finally ready to welcome Iraq back into the global financial system. Stronger, more stable, and more independent than ever before. So stay tuned, because we'll be watching every move, every statement, and every development as it happens. This is Iraqi Dinar, bringing you the facts behind the headlines. And today's headline is one for the history books, confirmed. Iraq presents final audit to IMF and World Bank for Dinar Revaluation. The finish line is in sight and the countdown has already begun.